Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya Sim. Thank you so much for all the love. Hope you all are doing great. Indigenous people are not happy. You all know Kendrick Lamar released an album, and everybody's really happy. It's Kendrick Lamar. He's loved and all that. So it happened that there is one of his songs where he used S.lur. Sincerely speaking, I don't know anything about that slur. And for those that will ask, what is this S.lur? Let me know in the comment section if you don't know. I probably will write it down, but I know nothing about it before, not until now. And they are kind of not happy that people do not know their history or people have refused to learn their history. One thing I'm going to say is that sometimes if you don't tell people your history, they will not know. Not everybody will go and read it, not until you all start screaming about it. Like I said, and from my commentary, that is why I love Black people. When Black people do not like something, they scream it. They are very loud about it. When I say loud, in a good way. They say it and they say it openly. They do not hide it. Not the people that will say that it is not in our culture to talk. In whose culture is it to talk, to speak out? Right? A lot of people are like telling them, please just let us enjoy the album in peace and all that, because majority of you use the N-word, right? And let's enjoy the song. But I am saying that if people do not like something, I absolutely will not like anybody to use it on them, except you have a one-on-one encounter and somebody uses a slur for you, and if you want to use it, that is it for the person. But yeah, I think we can also be nice, right? Let's get into this video.
Kendrick, dog. You can't say Eskimo. You can't say Eskimo, bro. I wish people would research what that word means to us and what they did to our people, bro. They're still finding bodies of women and children that they kidnapped to this day and finally bringing them home for a resting place. Like, it's not okay, bro, that we keep dropping the word Eskimo, bro. It's not okay. People need to research this. I don't want to be that guy, bro. Kendrick is a great artist, and I don't think he's racist or anything. I think he's just misinformed like 90% of the world because for some reason our history doesn't matter. Like, it's so stupid to me, man. God, I just wish everyone would research what it means and have a little bit more respect of what happened.
I thought it was okay to use slurs as long as they were in a song. Or is that just for the N-word? I'm saying that because of the outrage of Kendrick Lamar saying the E-word when nobody knew it was a slur. Now, I'm not saying that the Inuit people can't make a stance against that word if they don't want to use. I knew about the word years ago because I did do my research on it. They actually now think that it actually derived from the French word Esquimaux, meaning those who knit snowshoes. But again, the Inuit have every right to say we don't want that word used. But once again, the burden of the situation is placed on Black shoulders. Even though we didn't make the word, we didn't normalize the word, and even though most people don't even know that they consider it a slur. Meanwhile, everybody says the N-word and we get blamed for it. Y'all say it in songs. If non-Black people can't say it, no one should. Well, if they grew up in the culture, nobody walks up and says, you fucking E-word. But they do walk up and say, you fucking N-word. And now, Black people are shucking and fucking jiving. Once again, defending everybody who don't give a fuck about us, who don't as a whole, nobody does, try to defend us except when it benefits themselves, except when it's self-serving. We don't even fucking use the word. Everybody knows the history of the N-word and how derogatory that it is, because for thousands of years we have been called some form of that word by almost every fucking race and ethnicity in this world, and there has never been a question of what it actually means. We get called that, we get called colored, we get called Negro, by non-blacks. And again, I'm not saying that the Inuit people cannot talk about the reason why they don't want it to be used. And they don't even have to give a reason. They can just say, we don't want it to be used. And that's enough for everybody, because nobody's even talking about what they actually thought that it meant, which was raw meat eater. Y'all not even saying that because you don't know. But everybody goes then and attacks the people on the bottom of what I would say the totem pole, but I know that's offensive to Indigenous Americans, so I'll just say at the bottom of the fucking list for everybody in the fucking world, the most vulnerable. And what kills me is how hard black people are going. What kills me is the fact that anybody thinks that they have to explain how a slur could be harmful to the people who were the first ones to ever have a slur used against them. It's the same thing that happened when the Pe0ple started calling black people pro-genocide for voting for Kamala. Video after video after video, they voted for Trump, which, by the way, y'all about to see how that's gonna backfire on y'all. Same thing with the Asian community. Stop Asian hate, knowing good and goddamn well it was not black people doing this shit, but they blamed it on us, got a bill, and then they went on to overturn affirmative action, blaming us once again when they were the ones that benefited from it the most. Highest acceptance rate in colleges in the United States. Meanwhile, the highest percentage of human trafficking of children, 53%, are black little girls and black little boys. Nobody's fighting for that. Meanwhile, in this country, the law that ended slavery still puts us in slavery and is about to get worse. Meanwhile, black people are disproportionately arrested, convicted, offed, and exonerated because they didn't even commit the crime. Meanwhile, there are sundown towns. Meanwhile, we have to have laws that allow us to wear our natural hair to the workplace and school for our kids to play sports. Y'all all saw that black little boy have his locks cut off at the swim meet so that he could fucking compete. Have y'all not seen the videos of 5-year-old little black kids being arrested at school for having a fit? Or all the YT women who have lied on black men now coming out and it comes out that they were lying after they've made millions off of their story? Meanwhile, we have to teach our children to keep their hands on the wheel, speak kindly to officers so that they won't fucking die. Meanwhile, our children are being found with ropes around their neck in bathrooms, in the woods, and in the woods they're calling it suicide. Meanwhile, we're receiving medical mistreatment and stereotyped because they call us drug seekers. Meanwhile, black women are dying at disproportionate rates during childbirth, even accounting for health and socioeconomic status. So while we searching everybody's history, we don't know shit about our own. Tell me, who created the current light bulb? Tell me, who's responsible for this color that you're seeing on this screen? Please tell me who created the refrigeration system that was used during wars to transport blood to soldiers that needed transfusions. Please tell me where vaccines originated, and not the white man, the one before, who stopped smallpox in this country. Please tell me the name of the woman who is responsible for every fucking medical advancement in this fucking country because they used her fucking cells because they were immortal and without permission. Please tell me why we know what happens with people who have syphilis if it's untreated. The reason you don't know that, and the reason that all those horrible things have happened to us, is because of the history behind the N-word. I'm not taking away from anybody else's struggle. I'm highlighting my own people's, because nobody else will. Not even our own people. I'm saying that nobody gives a fuck about the history behind our slur. But black people are sitting here taking the blame, demanding Kendrick take it out of the song while he's talking about issues in the black community. Received a Nobel Peace Prize because of his highlighting of black issues in this country. I'm not going to call out, degrade, disrespect a black man talking about our issues while everybody else steals from our culture, while nobody else talks about our shit unless it's fucking beneficial to them. No, I'm not doing it because none of you fucking knew, and nobody is talking about why it's a slur. Fuck that. What the fuck I look like looking at the chains on my own fucking wrists, which no one has volunteered to help me take off, and try to unlock somebody else's, who then is going to take it and run off and forget the people who removed those chains from them. I'm not. I won't say the word because I know the history behind it, and I know the pain that comes behind it when somebody not of your race uses it. But I'm not going to condemn Kendrick Lamar. Because what about our shit? People still say cakewalk, a spade is a spade, colored, Negro, peanut gallery, the fucking national anthem. 10 out of 10.
Kendrick Lamar just dropped a new album, which is cool, but in one of his songs, he uses a racial slur, which isn't very cool. Be clear, that word right there is an outdated racial slur. That is a historical term used by settlers to describe the indigenous people of the Arctic. This word or racial slur was imposed by outsiders and has roots in colonialism. One of the translations is eaters of raw flesh. It's basically an ugly stereotype against the people of the Arctic that was meant to dehumanize them, claim that they were a bunch of uncivilized savages, all of which is untrue. The correct term would be Inuit or the specific community that you're referring to. We all need to remember that words matter, and for the indigenous people of the Arctic, the Inuit, this word right here carries a heavy history of racism, marginalization, and stereotypes. Now, I don't think Kendrick Lamar meant any harm. He seems to be a very thoughtful artist. Nevertheless, even the most aware person can get things wrong. The most important thing is that we learn from it. So since it's Native American Heritage Month, I think it's important for us to take the opportunity to educate ourselves about indigenous peoples and unlearn some of these ugly stereotypes that have led to the oppression and violence against indigenous communities. And Kendrick, if this reaches you, which I doubt it will, I hope if you ever perform that song, you don't use that word. It's a racial slur. And to all the indigenous people of the Arctic, the Inuit peoples, much love and respect.
So while we were basking in our blackness and celebrating our culture, you got this bi-ethnic Mexican, Hispanic, Alaskan Native dude coming on here trying to clout chase. You're clout chasing. You're trying to take the attention off of whatever the fuck we got going on, even though we're not paying nobody any mind, to point out that Kendrick Lamar said a slur, Eskimo. But we have all these financial institutions, we have all these educational institutions, we have schools that taught us since we were fucking 5 years old about Eskimos. But for some reason, modern day, it's a slur. And then you're going to be a rapper and be in our cultural art form in our culture try to tell us what's what. When you said you were part Hispanic and you have Hispanic people using the N-word all the time, you never raised your voice for that shit. Okay, and then you have Native Americans who think that they have a monopoly on who's indigenous. You do not have a monopoly on who's indigenous. It's been books, it's been proven there are melanated dark-skinned people here before Columbus. Okay, and anytime we even mention that we might have some Indian heritage, wobble, 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 wobble. Y'all just call us wobbles. That's a fucking slur. And you have never raised your voice against your fellow Native Americans to stop calling black people that. Because just because you're black doesn't mean that all your heritage is in Africa. Not every black person on this fucking globe is African. In that case, everybody's African because that's where supposedly humanity came from. There's black people all over the world who built their tribes where they reside. And black Americans have built their tribe, black American, Sulan, that is an ethnic group. Ethnic group is a tribe of people who have been here before the United States was founded. We've been here longer than 248 years. That's how old the United States is. But for some reason, y'all don't know how to put two and two together. And then y'all call us wobbles, you disrespect us, you say derogatory terms towards us all the time. Because you guys think that you have a monopoly on who's indigenous and not. You don't. So until you open your voice and raise your voice and advocate for that shit, shut the fuck up and get out of our culture. How the hell you a rapper trying to tell us what the fuck it is? That's our space. Y'all got some motherfucking nerve, bro.
Oh my God, have you heard Kendrick said the E word? We don't care. We don't care. Look, guys, there's always some sort of fucking distraction. I'm not saying that probably isn't something that is offensive to a certain populace of people. Got that. What you're not going to do is hijack the hatery. Get the fuck out of here. Y'all didn't, he said nigga 128 fucking times. 128 fucking times. Don't tell me about the Eskimo. Fuck!
I didn't know it was a slur either. I have very vague memories of that word. It's not part of my vocabulary. I won't be using it. But since I know now, even if I was frequently using it ignorantly enough, not knowing it was a slur, I would stop. But my question is, if indigenous people came to you guys telling you, hey, don't use that word, it was a slur, and it actually really bothered me that Kendrick Lamar used this slur in their music, considering they're not saying, abolish Kendrick Lamar's the worst, we hate Kendrick Lamar, there's none of that stuff. They're literally saying, don't use that word, it's a slur, I'm bothered by Kendrick using it in their song. It really shows you how little that we know about Native American culture. In the same way that we were talking about not knowing about Native American foods, considering that we live here on their land where their culture once flourished. My question is, what is the motive behind making videos using that slur to explain how you feel like nobody takes your own slur seriously? I'm trying to convince the world that nobody has empathy for black people and their N-word slurs by using other slurs. Why was there so much anger towards indigenous people? Did you have personal beef with them? Have you witnessed indigenous people all over America just simultaneously saying the N-word together? Or is this a false sense of black solidarity once again, hiding away from every single culture because of your perceived assumptions since the election? Because that's what it is. It's the Trump thing, isn't it? Convincing you that all indigenous people had access to vote, had the ability to vote, made it to the voting polls, and 70% of them chose Trump. Even though the reality is a violently large amount of them had no access to vote. And a violently large amount of them do not support that. But please, enable your race war. It's gonna get you so far.
Whoever feels some type of way feels some type of way. This whole Eskimo Kendrick Lamar debate, very clearly, most people don't know that that is a slur. Even more importantly, you're in black spaces. I don't see, like, you had to skip past so many words until everybody else gets their slurs in check and stops entering our spaces without permission. I don't want to hear no crying about the word Eskimo. They're literally on flash vocab cards. I was a teacher. Cut it out.
So two of my mutuals, Aaron and Shaheem, now have both made videos about this. And honestly, I wanted to talk about this, but sometimes I feel like y'all are not ready to hear conversations about ways in which we just have to be better as human beings. And a lot of y'all get very frustrated or angry that we as a society are learning that things are harmful or slurs or whatever. And like I've said many times, this election has proved to me that a lot of y'all are very fucking conservative. So it's not shocking to see that people are so upset that a man came on here who is an indigenous man who told all of us that Kendrick Lamar used the S.lur, which first listen, I didn't even hear him say the word. I'll be honest with you, first listen, I did not hear it. But once I saw that video and I went back and listened, I was like, oh, he definitely said that shit. And people are mad that this native man is saying that this is a slur. And I feel like y'all are trying to say, like, think that people are saying, oh my God, he has to be canceled now or whatever. I think the vast majority of people have no idea that that word is a slur. I only knew that that word was a slur because there was a white man on here who had that as his username, who was like fighting for Palestinians or whatever, was a little bit weird. He was a little bit sketch. I don't know what happened to him. I think he kind of got like, I don't know, he's in the ether of TikTok now, but that's the only reason why I knew that word was a slur. But I don't understand the difficulty in recognizing, and maybe I do, because a lot of y'all are starting to use the R slur again. A lot of people are starting to use like very ableist language again. So it's not surprising that when a issue is brought up because somebody is using a slur, and somebody that people love and appreciate his music so much, people are very quick to be upset about it. I think we're kind of missing the bigger picture here of societally, we are shifting further right. Whether or not it's the immigrant jokes, whether or not it's the like resurgence of I love being fucking skinny, whether or not it's people like the resurgence of all these slurs, whether or not it's like, I don't know, it just seems like we're missing the very clear signs that we are becoming further and further right. Not because necessarily Kendrick Lamar used that in his song, but because when somebody came on here and said to people, hey, this is a hurtful slur that impacts my community, instead of people just saying, yeah, you know what, that's fucking valid, I really hope Kendrick Lamar does something to change that bar or uses a different line or whatever, people attack the man who's just saying this is a slur against my people. Can somebody actually tell me what's wrong about that? And I've also seen people say things like, oh, like when it's only when it's black people. And it's like, well, maybe there hasn't been a time really ever where somebody as big as Kendrick Lamar has openly used that word in a way that it like permeated into the mainstream. I think that there have been a lot of Christmas songs and there have been a lot of things like that. There are like sports teams and stuff like that people don't really care about, who use that slur in their name, in their branding or whatever. So it hasn't been forced into the mainstream. But somebody like Kendrick Lamar saying it, it becomes like on the forefront because he's such a big talent. Like he's such a big person. But that does not mean that he's above critique, and that does not mean that we are all above learning. Like we can learn that things are slurs and just do better. Like that's the whole point in all of this. And I feel like people are taking this to fucking weird ass places.
Why is it so hard for folks to just not say a slur? And I think it's different if you're completely ignorant of the term, the slur, and you had no idea because you've never been around a community to tell you. Or when you have a widely known slur for certain folks, but you still feel as though you need to push to say it. Recently, Kendrick dropped his new album, and in one of the songs, he says a slur. And this slur specifically references Indigenous people. Now, I myself did not know this word to be a slur up until last year. Thank God for TikTok. And while the multitude of videos from Indigenous folks talking about this slur may not ever reach to Kendrick, it has absolutely reached you because they're in my caption. No one cares that you didn't know before, that you've been saying it your whole life, that you've seen it in movies, or that your Indigenous homie called his Indigenous cousin one in passing. Don't say it. When Glorilla originally dropped the single Holo, she had used the R word in one of her lyrics. And fans of hers that are from the disabled community tagged her, tweeted her, made videos explaining why that word is a bad word and that it further marginalizes their community. And you know what she did? She didn't get on the internet crying, screaming, and throwing up, talking about how everybody uses the word. It's normal in her community. Within a couple of hours, the lyrics was changed, and that was that. I can only hope that the messages from the Indigenous community reaches Kendrick in a very powerful way, and that he is able to strip the lyric of such a derogatory term and replace it with something far greater. As for the rest of you N-words, don't use it or say it.
The Kendrick S.lur Inuit discussion that's going on right now really reminds me of the culture shock I experienced when I moved to the East Coast for a year. I lived in Washington, D.C., and I realized that, like, people did not have any casual exposure to Native Americans in their day-to-day lives. I'm a Mexican immigrant that grew up in Leavenworth, Washington, which, if you know anything about that, it is a Bavarian-themed town in rural red Washington state. So back in the day, when I was growing up there, you were either white or you were of Mexican or Mexican immigrant whose family worked in agriculture in some capacity. That was kind of like the only two options. It's a little more diverse right now. But even growing up in like Gringolandia, I had a lot of casual exposure to Native Americans and Native American cultures. And not only just casual exposure, but also like built-in institutional exposure. Because part of the curriculum for schools there was like, everyone had to do the little play about Lewis and Clark. Everyone had to go to Salmon Fest at some point, which is a festival in Leavenworth at the fish hatchery, celebrating the return and learning about the return of the salmon and their migration patterns. Like, you just learn about that. You learn about the mythos and mythology around salmon, but also they had Native American educators that would come in their regalia at this little like festival at the fish hatchery. You would eat like smoked salmon. You would like just learn about like different cultural practices that they had present day and then back in the day. And that was just like a given, like part of, I think, the 5th grade curriculum at the time was like, we had to pick a tribe across the United States somewhere and build something about learning about how they lived as like a little project and built something from it. I remember making like little adobe houses. But not only that, but like I had friends who were like from like Yakima, you know, or Colville or different tribes. Going to college, the Native American Student Association was there. Like, you just eat fried bread at some point if you have like any Native friends. I can think of 3 Native American restaurants just off the top of my head, like off the res restaurant that's part of the UW museum that's here at the university. There's Not Your Nacho Mama's Fry Bread, which is in West Seattle, and then there's like Indigenous Eats in Spokane on the other side. But that's not even counting like the restaurants on the actual reservations that are here. I went to college in the really red part of the state, right up against the Idaho border, and even there was a language revitalization school, the Salish School of Spokane, where people start, you know, their kids at the very beginning of their education and follow them throughout it, and are being taught in Salish and in English, and so they're learning that language. Like, it's integrated into their day-to-day lives. And that's in my link tree if you guys want to donate to that. It's a small school. But even besides that, like the Seahawks logo here is a design of an actual like coastal Salish mask, I think from like Vancouver. It is at the big museum with UW, the Burke, and even that museum is really involved with the different Native American groups and traditions that are here, like in actual partnerships. A lot of the names of different Pacific Northwest or Cascade Mountain communities are actually Native, and this book just covers about 150 of those places and their history. This is really good, actually. I got this at a Native American museum that was right up the top of the Redwood Forest next to the Trees of Mystery, which, again, that's just something that you bump into when I was on the road trip. I didn't even know that was there. And then I went to the East Coast, or when I went to college, and I met people who were not from the area where I'm from. And I realized that some people didn't even know that Native Americans were still alive. Some people didn't know that there was like active communities that are having discussions like the one that this last album drop has inspired, and have been having these discussions that have, you know, worked with, I don't know if it's like Nike or Adidas, that were paying schools to change the names, the anti-Indigenous names of their mascots to be able to receive like, you know, funding from whatever company that was. Like, these have been discussions in Native American communities or around Native American communities. And if you are in a place where you have been taught to learn to listen to Native Americans, like, this wouldn't have been a surprise that this conversation has come up. And it's just people who don't have really any exposure to Native Americans, cultures, discussions, or anything like that. Like, that's why it's such a shock to some people. And I know here in the Pacific Northwest and like in these little liberal areas, we joke around a lot about how, like, you know, every little thing, like the opening of a detention center is going to have a land acknowledgement before that. But that also, the part that the reason we have a land acknowledgement is because Native American voices have a presence here. is like ingrained into our culture. Whether or not they're listened to, that's another conversation that's not mine to speak on. But it is just a part of the culture here that really isn't the case in other places that have no casual exposure to Native Americans. So if you want to start being informed on Native American issues and discussions, I recommend this podcast. It's a daily 5-minute podcast on national Native news around different regions of the United States and sometimes globally about what's going on in Native American communities today.
Let's agree on something. Most of us did not know that the E word that Kendrick Lamar has used on his song, which I have not heard or listened to, you all are talking about it, so now I know this. Let's all agree that most of us around the world were introduced to that word to use to describe a certain group of people, right? And we did not know that those people consider that word a slur, right? And now we know. Now they are telling us, now we are hearing that that particular word that if you type on your phone will be capitalized, right? A noun, a way of calling a name for a certain group of people. They consider it a slur. You may not have met any of them before. You've watched National Geographic. That was the word that was used. Yeah, blah, blah. They are saying that it is a slur. We do not need to use it. We don't need to use it. And that's that. That's that.
So this is all I got from this video, and I see a lot of comments, people commenting on the song, right? I love Kendrick Lamar. I love his songs. His songs are usually hitting home for anybody that knows Kendrick Lamar, right? And kudos to him. And I do not know anything about the S.lur. I have never heard about that. And I am sure majority of Black people also do not know that. Because in the comment section, I also see people saying, I never knew that is a slur, never heard of it, and all that. There is a video I was also supposed to bring here, but the video has, it's copyrighted because of the song in the background. That's why I did not bring it, right? Some of them are mad, sad that, people do not get to know about their culture, right? Because, the people don't know their culture, and they think people should read about their culture. And I am going to say this. One thing I love about Black people is that they are very loud when it comes to anything that gives them concern. When I say loud, I don't mean loud in a bad way. I mean loud in a good way, and I love it. When I say loud, I mean that when Black people do not want something, when something is not okay with them, they speak it out. You definitely will get to know it. You will hear it. You will know it, right? But some people think it's okay to be for them, they keep saying it is not in their culture to make noise or to scream and all that. In whose culture is it to scream and shout? Now they are blaming Kendrick Lamar over the S.lur. I am not sure a lot of people know this. I don't know if he knows it. And from some of the videos that did not make it to this place, some are suggesting when the sun comes up, please do not use the S.lur, E word, because it's a slur, and it is not a good word. When it comes to our culture, because of the words, the history surrounding that. And something I know and I respect is that about people is that I do not know a lot of slurs, and I do not care to know. When it comes to Black people, people using the N word, because I also saw in the comment section a lot of people saying, but the Indigenous people use the N word like it's like it's nothing. But that is not why I am here. I am not going to judge anybody. And one thing I know is that I like keeping it real, right? And I know a lot of people use the N word. When I say a lot of people, because I personally bring the videos here, right? And for the people that use this N word and all that, even when after being told that this is not like, we do not want anybody to use it or not because of the history behind it, we do not want it. They still continue using it, right? But I do not pay back evil for evil sometimes, right? Because I feel like maybe people do not know the meaning of the E word. I mean, whatever it is, which I personally do not know. Some people some people may not, right? But what I am going to say is that if people say that something is not okay, like this something demeans them and all that, I personally would say nobody should use it, right? I understand that nobody cares about Black people. Nobody wants to, their life is always like anything that will probably make Black people go feel bad and all that, because I have brought so many countless videos of them using it. It is not new. I always bring them here, which you all know, right? But I also will not, when somebody say a word is not okay for him, or sorry, this is not good for us because of the history behind it, all I can say is please, nobody should use it on them and all that. I am sure majority, I don't know if you all know about the S.lur, but just feel free to let me know about the S.lur, but I know nothing about it and I do not care to know. It is none of my business, right? I believe in equity because equity says whoever comes to equity must come with clean hands, right? And so this is me coming with clean hands. The only time I am going to pay people back for all the words they have used against my own people or the N word is when people call me that personally. I will, if I know any S.lur you all have to, I absolutely will use it on you. But going around or trying to use the word when people say it is not okay, I would not use it. But mess around with me, I will use it on you, right? So yeah, let me know what you all think. I don't think I really want to talk so much on this because sincerely speaking, I don't want to dive into how they use the N word and how, they are saying nobody should use the S.lur because it's not a good thing because of the history behind it. I also respect that because when people use the N word, I come out here and I scream it and I say, do not ever try that. And I will also be respectful to other people's culture or history or something like that. And some people are saying, can he not, how do you want him to remove it from his song? How do you want Kendrick Lamar to remove it from his, he probably might, I don't know, but how do you want him to remove it? So it's already there, it's there. But the best he probably can do is probably when he's performing it, not to use it. Probably he may know, he may not know. But yeah. Let me know what you all think about it in the comment section. I'll see you all in my next video. Bye for now.